Let's go to Kajiado Central, and so it's clear appears to be a two-horse race in the by-election that's slated for this month, Kanchori to Tui. And Kanchori has been flip-flopping in as far as parties are concerned, ODM, TNA, quickly back to ODM, which begs the question whether, is it about power by any means possible, or is it about values, ideals, and representing people?
Values, let's start with ideals. Ideals are what we aspire for, and we are going there. And we are going there by practicing today. Today, as we talk, the end justifies the means. It is never...
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But he was an ODM idealist. When they stopped him, he embraced Wiper. That's normal. That's part of the Kenyan spectrum. We hope we will reach the ideals. So now somebody wakes up and says, I want to go to Parliament. I think TNA would give me a chance, or JAP would give me a chance. If he's denied that chance, he moves to the next to try his luck. It is not very good, but that is the most prudent today. Tomorrow, as my brother senator will tell you, the end justifies the means. And this is in the Senate, even if it's ODM party.
So because that's the way politics has been practiced in Kenya, do you say that it continues that way? How do we change this time?
It will crystallize. In another 2-3 elections, it will. As now we are crystallizing into 2 parties, 2 major parties and 1 fringe party. Since
really?
2002. Yes. Since 2002 it was NAC and KAN. 2007, ODM and PNU. 2013,
yeah, and who's not to say 2017, 2022 won't have different...
We are crystallizing, we are evolving, we are growing. A time will come. See, now we are still voting more on the tribe. If Raila is on this side, I go and vote. As we do 2, 3, 4 elections and we realize it doesn't matter whether President Uhuru is the president, the Kiambu people will not eat more than the Kisumu people, then they'll say, we want a president who runs the system. So we will grow. For now, we are still crawling, so we hope our tribesman or tribeswoman would be... I'll be betting on the man from Mombasa in another 3, 4 elections, and at that time, I don't think he will... He is not my tribesman, but I hope he will run the country well, or not talk too much, but do too much.
Let me say one thing. I don't think it's the right thing what you said. Some of us were very reluctant initially to shift parties, but we need to strengthen internal party mechanisms so that they can be able to discharge democracies. Because if I had Kajembe leave ODM for TNA, saying ODM is not democratic. And I was like, what the hell does he mean? You know, I heard him. You saw that in the newspaper, saying that he was leaving. He aged me out because he wanted to flow a process. Today, probably he would have been senator if I did not run, because maybe he would have gotten that, you know, CORD support as the single CORD candidate. But you know, once we take off as politicians, even the politician who finally will get 5 votes. Something somewhere tells him he's going to win, and your next objective is to find yourself on that ballot box. So, and in this kind of an arrangement, I think as you put it, the 2 horses were either you are in the Jubilee or you are in the CORD. So he made a lateral movement, and I want to believe that if parties strengthen their mechanisms, so that people who lose in party nominations feel that fairness was exercised, then it will be partly possible that we will hold together to the very end. And if it was the other way around, I can tell you again, just to tell you how we have now synced the thinking, that if he had left ODM, or for that matter CORD, in a nomination process and joined Jubilee, would have said, you know, this is so normal. You know, you couldn't have expected fairness in ODM nominations. You know, there's a narrative, and that's why we must discourage that narrative, that some people are inherently violent. This is stereotyping. Some parties are inherently violent. That's stereotyping. It's called dogma. Dogmatic. Some parties are inherently this way. So when you do that, then you start to profile an entire community. And when you see me fight, one of the reasons I had that tussle is also, I live in a society we've been stereotyped.
But where do you, I get what you're saying, and there should not be stereotyping and profiling and saying that it's in the DNA of a certain party to do this or the other. But how then do you explain to somebody, how do you separate, fine, don't stereotype, but how do you explain that over and over these things keep happening?
And as I said, let's say, I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, if it is inherent in one party that there is always violence, but it is also inherent in the enabling legislation that, so to speak, established the Electoral Commission and puts forth the electoral processes. There are sanctions. There are sanctions that they can apply. If today I know that the nomination process was inherently violent, Electoral Commission can disqualify a candidate on account of that. So let's not.
So you're throwing responsibility to other. Are you not saying there's any responsibility?
I'm saying
if
there's any responsibility within the CORD coalition, then we own it. And I think internally there's been a very robust discussion. Ask my chairman, David Musila. He's been saying whatever happens in some of our sister parties is untenable and it must change. But equally, I think, I hope Isaac Hassan and his team and any other commission which will succeed them should be able to take the bull by its horn. The minute they start disqualifying candidates, the minute they start imposing penalties as stipulated in the Elections Act, the minute they start taking, legislative and other legal remedies, these things will stop. In fact, therefore, I think it's within our already it's known that intra-party dynamics. Look what happened to Margaret. Then finally, when the party disciplinary committee met, they said 100,000 each, and that was it. But it didn't stop the police from acting on the violence. It didn't stop the Electoral Commission from having a certain element of oversight of political parties. So therefore, I think it is accumulation, because intra-party mechanisms, let's face it, are weak.
Okay. Gitao, let's hear from you. Your thoughts on this Kajiado Central and how it's playing out, and also when you look at the likes of Kanchori, and some analysts have argued it's all about power. It's all about selfish ambition, and really at the heart of it, there's no ideals, there's no service to the people.
Yeah, and I think it's very selfish, because if you saw that guy, I can't remember what his name is, the one who is running who moved from ODM, TNA,
Kanchori,
and vice versa. If you ask why does he do that? I mean, you think it's because they see which side of the bread is buttered. He thinks he cannot win with ODM, he moves to the other party. And I think there must be a mechanism which must be put in place to make sure people do not sweep parties like that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about this power thing. This guy thinks if he runs with TNA, he'll win. Then the other, I saw him on TV, he said, okay, we're going to do it on TNA, then he moves to ODM, and vice versa. So if you look at it, it is very selfish, and more to that interparty thing.
Yeah. Whether?
I think it is the same parliamentarians. Originally, there was a law that said you can only run a party if you have been there 6 months.
Yes.
3 months.
Yeah,
3 months. They themselves realized that's not very tenable. Then they said we now allow defections. Now, if an individual takes advantage of that kind of issue, then you don't blame the individual, you blame the entire institution. But I want to correct the senator about the Electoral Commission, IEBC, barring people if they do this and that and that. The simple question is this: do you really think the IEBC can bar Raila Odinga? Do you really think it can bar Uhuru Kenyatta? Do you really think it can bar William Ruto or Musalia Mudavadi? They say it can bar somebody's weather or somebody in the village there. But when it comes to the nation of Kenya, then some of these institutions are smaller than these people. Let us evolve. That's why I say allow these things to evolve, so that over the years they become strong and they take charge. For now, Raila, Uhuru, all these big people are here, and the Electoral Commission are here. You look at the country, because the country can burn. You just saw when we arrested a senator and some MPs, and said, the police said we need 2 weeks, keep them in. What happened? It is the same DPP who had to come and say, Narok is burning, gentlemen. allow them to come out. So
All right.
these realities, let us evolve. Once we evolve, we will reach them.
So, Senator, then don't you agree then, as yes, IEBC and other stakeholders have a responsibility, but hasn't also that been affected by the fact that legislators like yourself have watered down those laws that would empower these organs to work?
In fact, I wanted to say the same thing which Weda did say, which I think we watered down the act. In fact, for me, I'm in a catch-22 situation, you know, because I'm a beneficiary of that alteration. I must be very sincere. I will not start to say that, you know, to pontificate of something that is, I am myself a beneficiary of. I left the ODM party on the 16th, when the close of nominations was on the 18th of January 2013. So I think I have also myself been a beneficiary of that particular process. And eventually I emerged a winner. So I've always been debating, what if I did not have that room and ventilation to be able to go into the Wiper party? And then, because I knew that at that time we would probably secure victory. And I think that's also the kind of gamble he has taken by going from ODM to TNA and then back to ODM. I think that it's a gambling game. So I am persuaded that this type of things should not happen. But I'm equally hopeful. I'm equally saying that parties must strengthen their internal mechanisms, so that, you know, so that I can expect fairness in my party. And where there is fairness, there should be a deterrence effect where someone, like, let's say if you lose fair and square in a JAP for that matter nomination, then there should be no ventilation, or vice versa. If you lose square and square in an ODM nomination, there should be no ventilation for that Wiper or any other party. There should be no ventilation for you to move to another party. So for me, it's a very dicey situation, because I will be very insincere to pretend that that kind of amendment council did not assist, did not facilitate me. If we were caught up in that web of 3 months, I would not have been able to move to Wiper party. I probably would not have been in the Senate, and therefore my chances to run. So these parties must also satisfy ourselves that parties have sufficient safety nets in terms of internal party democracy, so that then we are not able to, we don't suffer an injurious loss and barred by law to make that lateral movement.
All right.
But that opportunistic politics also come to play. In my case, like when I ran for parliament in the last election, when we were defeated, when the TNA nomination became chaotic, we moved overnight to another party. So having said that, we must have a mechanism where you expect fairness in your party, but then there is also close that leeway to move to another party overnight.